Welcome, lovers! I don't know what I'm doing, but you probably already knew that. And today I decided it'd be fun to talk to you guys about some housekeeping stories, because as a housekeeper, I have seen some interesting things, and I figured it'd be kind of fun to share them. The first thing that I would like to talk about is people who answer the door not fully dressed. So it's not uncommon to have people come and answer the door like in just like their underwear or like a towel or a long shirt or something like that. And it's always weird. It's always kind of uncomfortable because it's like, oh hey, look, a grown adult or a teenager or a small child I have never in my life seen before who's practically naked at the door. At this point though, I've gotten relatively used to seeing people half naked, which is probably not a good thing. But what really gets me is when people answer the door completely naked. Within my first about week or so of working as a housekeeper, there was a grown man who answered the door like bare ass naked. Like he opened the door just wide open, just more of him than I would ever have wanted to see. And instead of, trying to block out the parts of him that should have been covered or feeling weird about the fact that he just answered the door naked, he just looks me in the eye and says, "Oh, come on in. I'm just gonna grab my pants and head out." And I'm just, what? First of all, I'm not coming in until you leave. Second of all, what in God's name made you think it was... Oh, I don't even know. Frickin' Lobo, the only male housekeeper in our hotel, had the wonderful luck of having about 40-year-old woman do the exact same thing to him. Just answer the door, fully frickin' buck-ass naked, and be like, "Oh, hey, do you need something?" And like, I'm not sure if she was just overly comfortable or if she was flirting, but she just stood there like leaning on the door frame like, "Oh, what do you need?" For you to put clothes on, please. Yeah, that's a fairly common one that I wish wasn't quite so common. The next thing I'd like to talk about is when people leave stuff behind in their hotel rooms. Like, it happens all the time, which, traveling, you don't always remember to grab everything before you leave your hotel. A lot of normal stuff we find is like a shirt somewhere, or a toothbrush, or some shampoo still in the shower. On occasion, we'll find important things like somebody left behind their medication, or like a cell phone, or stuff like that, which is why we have our lost and found system, where it's like, oh, I found this thing. This is where I found it, this is when I found it, this is what it is and what it looks like for whoever comes asking for it. And then you just send it off to the office. And then sometimes there's some other things left behind. There was about a month or two ago, there was a woman who checked out of a room, and I went in there, started cleaning stuff up, and there was this little box sitting on the table thing. And I was like, oh, that's probably like a phone connection or something. So I picked it up, and I opened it to see what it was. Thankfully, it was empty. But it was very obviously a dildo. Like, just the box, the shape of the inside of the box was obviously the shape of what was a dildo. And I just remember, like, opening it and just, like, dropping it. Like, I don't know if they touched it after using the dildo, or if there's like juices on this box or something, but just mental, don't want to touch that. And then there was a specific time where somebody called about having left behind their Crocs, like 3 or 4 months ago, for some reason. And it was a room that I had, so naturally they're like, "Hey, did you find any Crocs in this room and just forget to turn them in?" And I was like, "No, I don't remember seeing Crocs at all in that room. I just found a bunch of trash and stuff." Like, it's possible that they put their Crocs in the trash can and so I didn't see them, because that's happened before, but I didn't see any. This person, who I will remind you was here 3 or 4 months ago for like 2 days, proceeded to call and be like, well, somebody at front desk told me that they talked to the housekeeper and that they found my shoes. It's like, first of all, nobody found your shoes. Second of all, nobody talked to me until after that first phone call. And third of all, I know the people at the front desk. They wouldn't just tell you they talked to somebody if they didn't talk to somebody. They're not dumb. But the person insisted, so I had to insist that I didn't find any because I didn't. And then that was the end of that day. And then the next day, they come in to the hotel. Like, I don't know how far away they live, but they arrive at the hotel the next day and make a huge fucking scene at front desk about, well, I was told that my Crocs were found and you need to give me my Crocs and I left them here. I know I did. Like, made a huge scene about her Crocs. She made such a big scene that I had to get a write-up for not following the rules of turning stuff in, even though they weren't there. Obviously, my manager is reasonable and is like, I wouldn't do this, but because she made a scene, I'm required to do this with the whole write-up thing, which was perfectly understandable. But like, first of all, they're Crocs. Second of all, why would I lie about that? Why? They're Crocs. I don't care. Another time way before that, when I went into one of the rooms, I was looking around cleaning stuff up, and I was like, oh, there's a box in here, and I picked it up, and it was heavy. There was something in it. And then I looked at the note that the people left behind under it, and it said, this is a gift for the housekeeper for doing such a good job. And I was like, okay. So I turned it around to look at what it was, and it was like, it was a speaker. Like, a brand fucking new, connect your iPhone to it, like, speaker. And I just remember being like, what in the hell? What? This person either already had a brand new speaker or went out and bought a brand new speaker just to give to the housekeeper, which was me. And I was like, ooh, okay. I don't know. But obviously, because it was left behind, regardless of the note, I had to give it to Lost and Found in case they called for it. But it was just like, what? Alright, I don't know. Also, when it comes to finding things in the room, I absolutely love when people leave me notes. Because, like, people will often leave, like, notes and tips and stuff like that for whoever cleans their room or is in their room last, whether it's maintenance or housekeeping. And I really love finding these notes. And like, cause a lot of the time it'll be just like a little piece of paper that says, thank you for doing such a good job, or for taking the time to clean my room, or sorry we were so messy. And I love the little notes, cause it's just like, it's like somebody appreciates the fact that housekeeping is actually like a job, and that sometimes it's really disgusting. And like, just getting that little bit of appreciation is just really nice. It makes me happy. And like, sometimes there are a couple times where somebody would leave something with a note, like a little cross, little like handmade cross thing with it I got once, and that was adorable. And a lot of the times they'll leave tips with it, which is always nice. Another time that I found something interesting in someone's room is I went into a room that was supposedly a checkout, and I looked over and I saw a suitcase sitting there, and I was like, oh, they haven't left yet. So I closed the door and went to the next room. At the end of the day, when I came back to the room, I knocked, nobody answered. I opened it, the suitcase was still in there, and I was like, alright. So I had to talk to the head of housekeeping. I was like, hey, did they check out, or are they staying overnight? There's still a suitcase in here. And so she was like, it says they checked out here. So she had to come up and check with me, and it turns out it was just an empty suitcase. And they left a little note on top of it that was like, hey, we don't want this, you can have it. And I was just like, okay. And now I'd like to talk about people who expect us to break the rules just for them. Like, we have safety rules for working at the hotel. Reasonably so, because people who work in hotels, especially housekeepers and maintenance, are pretty high on the list of people who get assaulted frequently because we're easy targets. So we have rules set in place to try and prevent that. One of which being, do not enter a room while the the patrons are still in there. We're supposed to go and knock on the door, and if they're still in there, either we have to come back later or they have to leave. We cannot be in the room with just them, for obvious reasons. So a lot of the time we'll go from room to room doing our job, and then we'll stop somewhere, we'll knock on the door and be like, housekeeping, and they'll come out and be like, oh, hi, come on in, and we have to be like, I'm sorry, I'm not allowed to go in there while you're still in there. It's hotel rules, it's policy. And so much of the time, people will be like, oh, it's fine, there's nothing wrong with it. We'll be like, no, I'm sorry, I can't, it's rules, I can't break them. And just the amount of people that will be like, oh, it's fine, nothing is gonna happen, or you can break the rule for me. And they'll just like insist and insist and insist, and we have to be like, I'm sorry, I can't. And like people will get freaking angry at me for not breaking rules for them. Like they will legitimately get mad at me for not coming in and cleaning their room just because they don't want to step out for 15 minutes. And I'm just like, I'm sorry. First of all, I don't know you. So why would I even consider breaking rules for you? Second of all, the rules are there specifically because we're trying to not get hurt. I don't know that you're not a serial killer. I don't know you're not gonna attack me. And you telling me you're not going to attack me is not going to help because I don't know you. People are just so entitled, I swear. And it's just, and I swear it's never the people my age either. It is never the people my age who expect me to just break the rules for them. It's always either the older people or like the kids who don't know any better. And now we can talk about people who try to get free stuff for the sake of not wanting to pay for their hotel room. People very frequently will complain about stuff just to try and get like a free night or like complimentary shit because they don't want to pay for anything, which is always annoying. And a lot of the ways that people do this is they'll complain about like, oh hey, this was dirty when I came in if it wasn't, or hey, this thing was missing, or this thing was broken, and it's not. And I don't understand why people think that this is a good idea either, because we literally send someone to go make sure you're telling the truth. Like what do you expect to happen? So the two times in particular that I'm going to talk about are both about cleanliness. There's this one woman who decided to make a scene until we moved her to another room. And then she complained again. So I had to go with the head of housekeeping, because I was the last housekeeper there that day, to see what was wrong. And she was like, oh, there are scratches on the headboard, there's like gunk on the shower head and like stuff like that. And when we went to look at it, it was so obviously not a problem. Like the headboard was wear and tear. Like it wasn't even bad, it was just the fact that the bed had been used before, kind of little scratches here and there. And then the shower head was just slightly discolored because it's an old shower head. There wasn't any dirt or mold or anything on it. It was obvious too. Like it was used. And like we went in there and she's like, what is that? What is that on the shower head? And we were like, it's wear and tear. And she's like, yeah, but what is it exactly? It's like, I don't know what the term for it is. And then she goes into this fit about, oh, you don't know? And like, she was nice to us for the rest of the time. And we left because there was obviously nothing we could do. She calls front desk again and then starts screaming at them about how we didn't know what was on the shower head. And I don't know. I hate people like that. I hate them so much. The other one was actually really, really recent. And that was, they called at the end of the day and was like, hey, housekeeping never came by my room. And it was like, oh, I'm so sorry, we're gonna have them come by tomorrow. And so the next day, the person who had them on their board the day before was like, you marked it that you cleaned it. And they're like, yeah, I did. That's why I marked it that I cleaned it. And they're like, all right, well, they said you didn't, so you may have just missed something, or who knows, so just make sure you do an extra good job today. Still, at the end of the day, they complained that their room was not cleaned. 3 days in a row, these people said nobody came to clean my room. On the 4th day, it was my turn. So I went over there, I opened the door, I looked around, I was like, this has obviously been cleaned, or it would be much dustier than it is right now. But still, I cleaned over everything really carefully, and actually, and one of the people who's training in head of house person came and watched me do it. So there were 2 of us there. And still, towards the end of the day, just before I left, they called again and were like, hey, nobody cleaned my room. And it's just, we know for a fact that your room was cleaned. There were 2 people there this time to confirm that your room was cleaned. I don't know what you want. And like, it was so obvious that they just wanted to have like a free night or something. And it's just ridiculous the lengths that people will go to and the lies that they will tell when it's so obvious that they're gonna get caught. And I don't know, it's just, I think it's ridiculous. And then there are the people who just, because I'm a housekeeper, assume I'm a little Hispanic lady who doesn't speak English. The amount of times that I've been in my room and cleaning and somebody comes over to where my cart is, leans over to look into the room and goes, hola, hola, just trying to get my attention. First of all, I don't speak Spanish. I never have. I've tried to learn, but it didn't work, and I probably never will know how to speak Spanish. The fact that you assume that I do is kind of weird and a little racist. And a lot of these times I'd go over to the door, me being me, and it being obvious that I'm not a Hispanic lady. They'd still just start talking to me really slowly, as if that somehow helps. And they'll be like, I need towels. As if saying things slowly somehow translates it to another language. How does that make any sense? Talking slowly to somebody who doesn't understand what you're saying doesn't help. But like, I'll be standing there looking at this person, trying not to get like an annoyed look on my face, just talking really slowly and being annoying and assuming I don't speak English, and I'm just like, I understand you, ma'am. How many towels do you need? And like, I'll smile and I'll be friendly and I'll be like, oh yeah, how many towels did you need? What kind of towels did you need? And so often they'll just be like, oh, like moment of, oh, I'm dumb. And it's just, it's always interesting seeing their reaction, because some people are like, oh, okay, I guess I was wrong. And some people get like that deer in the headlights look, like, oh god, I fucked up. And it just makes me laugh. It's always funny. But like, there are so many people, yes, there are a lot of people who are Hispanic who are housekeepers. There just are. But you don't gotta assume that, because there are a lot of us who are not. I mean, I am technically Hispanic, but it's like that much. And the last thing that I would like to talk about is people who decide to flirt with me. Like, sometimes it'll be older folks, sometimes it'll be younger folks, sometimes it'll be people around my age, but like, I cannot seem to go a day without somebody at the hotel, like a patron, deciding it's a good idea to just flirt with me. And it's usually normal flirting, like just, I don't even know how to describe normal flirting. It's just, you can tell that it's flirting type of flirting. And it's always a little weird and a little uncomfortable. And it's just kind of like, all right, move on. Can we not? Then there was one time in particular where it was like, you need to stop. There was a large group of people who came in on a field trip because it was like a wrestling group and they're cheerleaders, I think. But like a bunch of high schoolers came in and their coaches and stuff, checking into all the rooms while we were cleaning the vacant ones. When I came out to mark off on the board that I had finished that room and see which room I needed to go to next, 2 of the high school dudes came up to me and started excessively flirting with me. And I was just like, all right, that's annoying. So I'm like, all right, hi, being polite, gotta, do my job, excuse me. So like, I closed the door and I went to move my cart, and one of them stood in front of my cart. And I was like, excuse me, I have to go to the next room. And And they're like, oh, but don't you like talking to me? And I was like, first of all, I have to do my job. I'm sorry, I'm here to work. Second of all, I'm too old for you. And they're like, too old for me? What are you talking about? We're just high schoolers. And I was like, yeah, you're a high schooler. I'm not. And then they got really confused and were like, oh, stop making jokes. And I was like, no, I am 22 years old. Like, I looked him in the eye, I was like, I am 22 years old. I'm too old for you. And then they just got like really confused and were like, ah, you're just kidding. And I was like, no, I'm not. And even if I was kidding, I have a boyfriend. Please let me do my job. And like, it took me telling them that not only was I too old for them, but that I had a boyfriend to get them to leave me alone. Apparently, trying to do my job and them getting in the way and me telling them to move is not enough. Anyways, that's all that I've got for you today. Hopefully it wasn't too weird for you. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you didn't, that is perfectly okay and perfectly understandable. But hopefully I'll see you in the next one anyway. But until then, I hope your day is just as lovely as you are. So, bye. Why don't some couples go to the gym? 'Cause not all relationships work out.